Thank you, Denise, for that excellent, intro into kind of reg intelligence world and some really great case studies that I think show a lot of the different ways, right? There's no one way for companies to do this. There's a lot of different ways, and you can even pick and choose within the ways that she presented. So now I'd like to invite our next presenter, Michael De La Torre, up to the stage. Michael is the CEO at Redica Systems. Welcome, Michael.
Try and use the microphone. Show of hands real quick. How many people have experience working with spreadsheets? All right, come on, don't be shy. You didn't raise your hand. Get it up there. All right. Now, how many of you know how AI is going to affect quality and regulatory over the next 2 years? Have a pretty good idea. Okay, well, you guys have come to the right talk then. Okay. So that's what this is about. Nice catchy title. Denise helped me put that together, from spreadsheets to rocket ships. So we're going to talk a little bit about what the future holds for regulatory intelligence and how we can evolve from a lot of those manual systems to a lot more automation and intelligence. And so I used to call this slide Denise's dream, but basically this is what it was. So she wants to wake up in the morning, she wants to open up her computer and say, okay, what's new today? Or if she's being lazy, maybe that week she took off, maybe a month or whatever. But what's new? What do I need to care about from the external world? And rig it. So just collate it all for me. Tell me what's new. What do I need to do? Now click. All right. Now, given those changes from the external world, here are the SOPs, products, people, processes that are most likely to be affected by all of those external changes. Would you like to add a comment before I notify those people and all of those process owners? Then, if she's a process owner, say, based on the latest data integrity guidance, would you please make me some suggestions as to changes to my data integrity SOP that I need to make? This will be possible within the next 2 years. So, extreme automation of all of those processes that Denise was talking about. Now, the second one. Investigation of an issue. So we got a little bit of Sherlock Holmes. So how many times have you ever seen an issue from the outside world and somebody said, do we have that issue? Come on, show of hands. What does that process look like? What's the next step in that process? Emails, you're looking through some things, et cetera, right? And then the second question, which a lot of people don't actually get around to asking, is how widespread is this issue? Is this going to affect everybody? It's like when nitrosamines first came out. Who predicted that how many different agencies put out a guidance on that? Right? How many people predicted that right off the bat? Right? So how would you like to be able to monitor that as it was happening? So first thing is, looking at enforcement documents like warning letters, 483s, recalls, adverse events. This issue first appeared 2 years ago. Multiple companies have been affected. Here they are, including 2 of your CMOs and 1 of your competitors. That will be theoretically possible within the next 2 years. We're tantalizingly close. Then the second question, looking at batch records, deviations and investigations, complaints and audits, there's a high likelihood that you have this issue. Here's the highlighted evidence and my confidence interval around each. And then, would you like alerts on this topic as it evolves? Check all that apply. Would you like to be notified of new guidances, new proposed regulations, enforcement, recalls, adverse events, or if one of the people in your own department finds a deviation, would you like to be notified of that as well? So it all is kind of part of the same pattern. And so as we think about this, all right, so that was kind of fun, right? Now, how's all this going to happen? A lot of AI mumbo jumbo. All right. So you've heard a lot of these things. Supervised learning, unsupervised learning, reinforcement learning, generative AI. Does anybody have any clue which one of these is going to help you? Denise, raise your hand. Denise knows. It turns out, let's quick definition. Supervised learning is labeling things. So text extraction, information extraction, translation. It's a lot of natural language processing, things like that. Unsupervised learning is basically clustering things. Right? So all the things that with aircraft engines and predictive maintenance and things like that, a lot of that's unsupervised learning with machine data. Reinforcement learning, optimization of the rewards, we're never going to use that. Just forget about that. Generative AI, text creation, song creation, image creation, things like that. So here, this is the answer. This is what matters to us. Which one's bigger? Okay, so this doesn't come from me. This comes from Andrew Ng at Stanford. So it's basically labeling things is the most important thing that will impact our lives as quality and regulatory experts, period. Okay? The generative AI stuff, the unsupervised learning stuff, it's not really going to help us. It is going to be labeling things. So, what does that mean? All right. Music example. All right, so before we go into all the detailed complication of how all the AI works, which we will go into a little bit of it, we're going to first talk about a topic that everybody understands, right? So assume most of you guys listen to music. Anybody listen to music? Okay. So how did we go from 30 years ago, we go to a record store, we wanted to learn about a new artist, and who did we have to talk to? We had to talk to the weirdo behind the counter, and maybe that guy didn't know the type of music that we were interested in. Maybe he did. Maybe he went too deep. Maybe he went too shallow, etc. But how did we go from that to automatically created, music lyrics, songs? You could put Arnold Schwarzenegger's voice on a Tiffany song. Right? How did we go from this record store to that in 30 years? Well, let's go through it. So it all started with Pandora. How many people have heard of the Pandora Music Genome Project? Okay? So my first experience with Pandora was I made a station about Queen. And then Pandora magically figured out that somehow I didn't even know who David Bowie was. That I love David Bowie. How did they know that about me? Well, it's all called the Music Genome Project, and what it was, so it started out with Pandora took tens of thousands of songs, and they actually took music PhDs. And they were able to break down songs, so tone, timbre, length, musicality, use of instruments, vocal tones, etc. So they broke it down into all these different categories, and they encoded all of these different categorizations on songs. Okay, so first they did it manually, and then now machines can sort of do that. They sort of can code the patterns. And so then they turn those features or elements of the song into what's called a vector. So everybody remember vector, write that down. So attributes can be similar, they can be opposite, or they can be unrelated. Okay, and then the rate of the similarity, you can just basically encode it. Okay? And so once you encode all of those things, you get different clusters. We all understand this. Country music. You can just hear country music. And it's like, oh yeah, that's country music. Oh, that's our, we do this as humans. We're really, really, really good at this, making clusters. And so, and actually you can turn all of these clusters into math. And what this is like 20 different types of music on the left, the same 20 types across the top, and it basically creates different clumps of similar music. So basically what this is saying is heavy metal is very, very similar to hard rock. Right? You kind of got to be an expert to tell them apart. It's like, oh no, that's Ozzy Osbourne. That's not Led Zeppelin. Those are two very different things, right? So an expert will tell you, but to anybody else into the machine, they actually sound, pretty similar. But heavy orchestra, even though it has the word heavy in it, has nothing to do with heavy metal. So Wagner and Tchaikovsky and Star Wars, the heavy orchestra has nothing to do with heavy metal. But in this chart, we'll tell you that. Okay. And so then when you basically map all of these different variables and clusters, like we saw from the previous presentation to AI, right? You have these pretty maps. So basically you get all these different galaxy clusters, and that one part of the galaxy is where David Bowie and Queen are. And so all these fancy playlist builders, recommendation engines, etc., it's automation that picks from the local cluster, randomly, semi-randomly. It has usage patterns, it has thumbs up, it has thumb down, so it can react to some things. So it's basically software that sits on top of clusters. Okay? And that's how it's done. Okay. So everybody understand how recommendations engines work? Pretty simple. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay? So, and then this one was Denise's favorite. So it is just math. Right? It's very, very complicated math. It's not just statistics. It's fancy statistics. It's machine learning. And, machines can do things that we can't better. But at the end of the day, it is, just fancy math. Okay. And so how does this, AI music. So it started with the data, which was kind of more supervised learning. Then it assists the human in making decisions, right? So Pandora-style playlists, music, spots new trends. So do you think that the algorithms can spot the next Taylor Swift hit, and can basically look at her album and say, yeah, these are going to be the 3 songs that are going to be popular? It can pretty much predict that at this point, right? And then finally, be able to use those same statistics and things like that, apply new algorithms, create original lyrics, new songs, you can do fake Drake, right, et cetera. So, but all started with structuring the data. So how does all of this apply to quality and regulatory? Okay. Labeling stuff. So gathering data, processing it, linking it, and some good old-fashioned data engineering will get you to rocket ships. And so I'm going to talk about kind of the three waves that we're doing this. And right now we're kind of in wave one. We're a long way, farther through wave one than you might think. And then we're going to talk about, which is all about leveraging natural language processing, supervised learning to extract text, link text, extract entities, extract concepts, label things, link things, etc. Then wave two is about assisting the human in making decisions. This is the Denise zone, right? Auto notifications, auto routing, impact assessments, diagnostics, trend detections, predictive alerts. See, you're like, oh wait, hold on, if the data's all labeled and everything's labeled, then it's just algorithms and software, right? So that's wave two. And then wave three gets a little fancier, where you're going to have to leverage large language models to create, suggest edits to SOPs, and gets a little fancier in wave three, but it builds upon the first two waves, and it's very possible. Okay? All right, so wave one, structuring the unstructured. So now we're going to get a little technical here, because I know some of you guys came for that. All right, so the first thing you've got to do is you've got to get rid of the highlighter. How do you get rid of the highlighter? Well, you've got to get AI to basically segment out all of the different words and do optical character recognition. Not on one type of document, on everything. So you have to have this fancy technology called intelligent document processing, and it's a bunch of little tools to basically structure the text. So this is a warning letter, right? So we do word level segmentation. Then you do layout segmentation. Kind of looks like a highlighter. This is the machine. This is actually based on Facebook technology. Right? So that Facebook can tell you, oh, this person's riding a bike, this person's throwing a football. So it's called a detectron, and actually you leverage that same technology to basically identify the different segments. Then you extract the segments into different sections. So there you go. Then you categorize the segments. So you have a different model, so this with a warning letter. So it's like, hey, I have the introduction, I have the deficiency title, I have the deficiency details, and then I have feedback. Right, so it's a model that automatically processes and detects different sections of warning letters. You can do it with 483s. You can do it with SOPs. You can do it with PICS documents. You can really do it with any document, but you have to train specific documents to do specific tasks. Right? No different from you give it to a human and you got to teach them what's in it. And once they learn after a couple times, they can do it. So it kind of works the way humans work. And so then now that you've structured the text, you need to understand meaning. And so what we've done here, so this is a little bit of an eye chart, I apologize, but taking that deficiency title, and what have you done? So this is the AI, right? So your firm failed to thoroughly identify, investigate an unexplained discrepancy. Well, what's getting cited? That's the quality unit, right? We all know it's the quality unit. Does it say quality unit anywhere in that sentence? Right? But what is y'all's confidence interval that it's the quality unit being cited? 100%, right? Because we all know the regulation, we understand those topics, and even if they worded it slightly differently, we would know that it's the quality unit being cited, and it's probably dealing with reviews and approvals and batch release, so slightly lower confidence interval there. They mentioned specification, so that's what the 1.0, 0.74, those are all the confidence intervals of the AI. So no different from how a human approaches the problem, right? So I got this thing today, walking around. Endotoxin detection, part 11. It's a real page turner. Ahead of the curve. Testing colored samples, validation process. The horseshoe crab population. How many people knew that horseshoes were related to endotoxin testing before they picked that up? Okay, this room. If we walked down the street somewhere else, how many people would know that horseshoe crabs are related to endotoxin testing? And it's actually a really big problem. Let me tell you all about it. Right? So the topics in our industry are not very common to the world. So you're not going to use ChatGPT to understand the things that are happening to us. You need very specific domain models to do this type of work. Okay? So how does that work? All right. You'd be surprised how many people fail this quiz. Anybody want to take a guess? What? Well, the Europeans spoke up. They said Paris. Yeah, they know it's Paris. Of course it's Paris. I get some people to go down and make it a little more complicated and whatever. But this is what humans do. Right? So remember we talked about vectors, right? Vectors are features. This is what humans do. We make associations in our brain with words. That's how we encode meaning. That's how we know that the horseshoe crab might have something to do with endotoxin, but are we on Chesapeake Bay? Probably doesn't. If we're not on Chesapeake Bay, it probably does to us, right? So lots of different types of vectors. So you have male, female, verb tense, etc. We're not gonna. This isn't not gonna be a test. You're not gonna have to remember any of this. But at the end of the day, so you can take each word, you can take combinations of words, you can take sentences, you can take paragraphs, you can take entire documents, and you make numerical representations of the sentences. Okay, so you're turning words into statistics, just like we did with music. So, this word, so queen, was queen a living being or not? What are you talking about, chess? No. You're talking about monarchy? Yes, probably. So there's about an 80% chance it's a living being based on the corpus of knowledge that was trained on this model. Is it royalty? I don't know. Are we talking about the band? No, it's definitely, well, I would argue that it's still royalty. But, or is it Princess Diana, which is definitely there. And so then as you go further into the sentence, it can lead the whole sentence, it can look at the context, and these probabilities will change. Right? So if it's talking about Princess Di and then the royal wedding and the crown jewels, it's definitely talking about royalty. That's how you get that 100% confidence interval. And essentially, and then you can plot it. It says, cat and kitten are pretty close, and it's kind of closer to a dog, and it's certainly closer to a house than it is to a house, and that's how you can visualize this stuff. And so then what we're doing, what we've done, is we've taken, you have to have good data, right? So we have, we're kind of the data company, right? So we've done, the world's leading Freedom of Information Act requester. We have thousands of documents that nobody's ever seen. Well, we're taking all of those messy examples from the regulators, and we're teaching the model our domain. Okay? So who knows what at the time of performance is citing? Anybody? Any brave person? Data integrity. But what part of data integrity? Contemporaneous. Oh, it's a good crowd. Right? So basically that's what that is. You have all these different messy examples that don't fit into the neat little training guides or guidances or things like that. Right? All these little things that we know, we're trying to pull that in and train them on. Okay? And so then we have building our own proprietary vector database to kind of embed all the meanings that we have for the topics that we choose to go after. And so then topics are basically clusters. So we talked about the music example with clusters. Same sort of thing. So I won't read these sentences, but basically sentences have similarity based on their embeddings, and you can basically say, hey, yeah, you're probably talking about the same thing. Okay? And so now, and then the final piece is integer extraction. So we've basically taken the approach of the FDA has no unique identification system. Not DUNS number, not FEI. And then it doesn't agree with the MHRA, doesn't agree with the EMA, doesn't agree with the PMDA, doesn't agree with ANVISA. So we've had to create our own unique identification system across the world. So for products, organizations, people, enforcement actions, inspections, everything. And then those things have to be linked. Right? So just the same way that Pandora linked a bunch of different entities and songs, we've basically done the same thing with all the entities in our space so that we can actually run search and kind of link things. Okay. So now that you've done all of that, now this is where it gets really scary. You won't even need to tell the machine very much. You can open it out of the box and it will start telling you things. So I had to take the name of the company off this page, but I've given you a hint. She was just up there if you don't recognize her picture. And so in the public domain is information about what products that company makes. The formulations, the marketing status, indications for use. The clinical trials are public. Maybe not all of their suppliers and vendors are public, but they certainly know that. And then where are all of their subsidiaries? Where do they sell? Where do they distribute? And who are all their people in their quality unit? LinkedIn's been pretty good at identifying that for us. And so this is just based off public information. We know they have 33 products and 80 excipients. We know all their product names. We know all their APIs. We know all of their excipients and formulations. So if magnesium stearate has a competitive change, I can tell you the 11 products that are affected automatically. I don't need anybody within the company to tell me that. Okay? You link the suppliers to this picture. All of a sudden, you know when, let's say DuPont or somebody like that got a warning letter and it's like, okay, well, what are our products are affected? Do we have any alternate suppliers? Just like that. Okay? How long did that take you guys to figure out? Okay, there you go. All right. Product categories. So we know that they care about human drugs. prescription, medical devices. They have both NDA and BLA, so they have small molecules and large molecules. We know their routes of administration. We know all of their dosage forms. That would probably be helpful in identifying guidances and regulations that you care about, right? We also know all of their therapeutic and pharmaceutical classes automatically. We also know all of their competition automatically and where they compete. So all these things, so that's not AI, right? That's just good old-fashioned data engineering. But then when you start layering AI and meaning on top of it, that's where you really get to magic, right? So all this powerful automation, so you can be looking outside the four walls, right? As you modeled the world outside there, you model the world inside the four walls, and that's how you get these personalized notifications, routing, assessments, predictions, etc. So it's not magic, it's just math. But it's actually pretty hard. It's hard math, but it is just math. And so, there we go. And that's it. Thank you.